Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm excited to have back with me my partner in crime, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. We decided to do an episode celebrating everything Peter Criss. We'll talk about what Peter meant to us growing up as kids, and what it was like meeting Peter Criss in more recent years. We'll also talk about the music and what Peter's music has meant to us as well. I think you guys will really enjoy this because I know Peter means a lot to all of us. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and get started with our conversation, celebrating the Catman, Peter Criss. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. I am excited to have back with me one more time in the year 2020, my partner in crime, Vincent LaRussa.
Thank you.
How you doing? I was waiting for all the cheering to stop.
Yeah. What's the actual crime we're committing? We're just doing a podcast.
You are my partner in crime and all things nonsense for the last, 40 years?
Fair enough. You always say 40. I always got to correct you 45, but okay.
40, 45. It's, I try to keep myself young.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
If I just keep saying 40, then that's what it'll be for the rest of my life. 40 years, 40 years, 40 years.
It's 40.
I'm going to be 95 when for the last 40 years, my partner in crime. That's right. That's right. But we wanted to get together today. Original Kiss drummer turned 75, right? Talking about staying young, right? It's unbelievable that he turned 75 today. And I know, especially, for both of us, we grew up a Kiss fan, the original lineup and all of that. But especially for you, I think, as a drummer, right? And in fact, I love the story. You've told me this before, and I think you might have even said it on the show, but it's worth repeating. You had two idols growing up, right? And I don't mean Billy Idol, right?
Yeah.
So you had two idols growing up, the Fonz
Hey.
and the Cat, right?
Yeah, and the Catman.
That's right. Yeah. So, why do you think as a kid, Peter Criss, obviously you had a drum set. I guess that's why you took to him?
No, actually, it was much later. I think at a very young age, I wanted to play the drums, although I did want to play guitar also. But I think always at heart, I always wanted to play the drums. And I don't know, I just always thought that he was, a cool character, the Catman, not that the other guys weren't cool too, but I don't know, something about him being maybe not as popular, the guy in the background just laying down the fort or whatever you want to say the expression is. The backbone of the band. That's what I wanted to say.
There you go, the backbone.
I just, for those who've watched our podcast before, I'm sorry if I'm going to repeat myself, but there are usually fresh people who've seen these things. So I'll just repeat a couple of things.
Absolutely.
But a couple of memories of childhood. Number one, I had a choice to get one solo album when I was a kid. I picked the Peter Criss solo album.
Yep.
I had one choice to get a Kiss doll when they came out. I got the Peter Criss doll. I had one choice for Halloween to get the Kiss Halloween mask, those plastic masks. I said, no mask. I'm actually going to myself. And there I am. Well, let me see if I can get that picture. There I am on the bottom there.
There you go. Peter Criss, full makeup.
Yeah, I think I was 8 years old.
Nice.
So I'm not just making up stories here, although that could be a kid.
I was going to say, that's not really you. I know it's not really you. You found it on the internet and printed that, right?
It's actually you.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
No, it's weird how we both gravitated to Peter Criss as a kid. But go ahead. You finish what you were going to say first.
No, I just always, and we've also talked about his solo album. I just have very fond memories of that record. And I just think, again, not maybe a stereotypical Kiss record. I think that album actually aged very well.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And to me, it's weird. I was trying to say, we both, as kids, gravitated to Peter Criss. Now, I always wanted to be a drummer, and we used to joke that I played drums on my chest. Eh? That
Yeah,
was the way I
very
played
well.
drums as an
Talk
8-year-old.
about an innovator.
That's
I
right.
think you were actually the original beatbox before hip hop hit.
Maybe that might have been.
You know, they always say hip hop came out of the Bronx. I think it actually
It came out of my chest.
Yeah.
It came out of my chest.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and I probably shared this story on one of these episodes as well. I think I have tried to get my parents to legally change my name around 1978 or something like that because.
And I don't remember that as a kid. But,
yeah, no, I'm sure my mom, if I talk to her about it, remembers it. I was not given any middle names, so I'm just Michael Brunn. That's it, no middle name, even to this day. But I wanted to have my name legally changed and insert Peter in the middle for Peter Criss. So I think for both of us growing up, he was our guy.
But you actually wound up changing it as you got older, didn't you? Now, isn't your first name Rock and Roll Experience?
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's Rock and Roll Experience.
Yes.
That's your legal name, right?
That's yes, I did legally change that. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
I was like, all right, where are you going with this?
I know I would get you on that one.
Yeah, you got me on that one. So yeah, I mean, I remember reading the 16 magazines when Peter Criss was leaving Kiss, and me being like, I'll say, a little heartbroken about that. So it's just. It's interesting thinking back, because we ended up both loving Eric Carr, but during that time right there, 1980, I was like, no, Peter Criss can't be leaving. He's my guy, So it's weird how we both gravitated to him. But, even to this day, and especially you as a drummer, you always talk about how his style and his feel is something that really has never been duplicated in Kiss or really any hard rock bands for that matter.
Yeah, and I think also for those guys who have covered Peter, any drummers that Ace Frehley's played with or whomever, they really never quite got the feel of Peter. Sometimes when you're a super technical drummer, it's hard to get that swing or whatever it is that he had players, or maybe it's inconsistencies of whatever. And I think that's the beauty of his playing. It's just he played with a certain swagger. Again, loving jazz and Gene Krupa was one of his idols. He really brought that to Kiss, and I also wonder, and more stories than I do, is like what his background. And I actually listened to the Chelsea record. I own the record, just listened to what he played on that. And then all of a sudden playing with Kiss, like this bombastic big band. You wouldn't think from his influences that this would be his thing, but I think, getting into something where Gene and Paul had this vision, it had to seem very exciting for him to want to be part of something that they were trying to break ground.
Yep.
But ironically is that whether it's Deuce or 100,000 Years or Strutter, I've said it all before, you could have Walk This Way has, you could have the intro to Stairway to Heaven, these hooks or these lines, like many other drummers, Peter also had his signature, whether it's the opening fill to Strutter or it's the start of the groove to Do You Love Me, or just the groove in Deuce, or Watching You. There's a lot of great stuff. Love Gun. Oh, Love Gun I think came from the demo, so I think he copped that one. So
right, probably.
Yeah. Right. But still, you have to play it.
Right.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of great stuff there. I
think one of the things, and me, I've always been, I'll say, a bootleg tape collector, and it must have been 7-8 years ago, a show from 73 kind of hit the open market for bootleg collectors. And to me, it was really cool to listen to that. And it's like early, like June of 73. So the band's only around for like 5 months at this point. And we're all used to Paul Stanley doing all of his stage raps and all of that. But in between songs, Peter Criss is talking to the crowd, and it's interesting. Like, we heard about when he joined the band, he was the one that had, I guess, the most experience, right? Even though Paul and Gene had done an album with Wicked Lester, but Peter was more experienced, a little bit older, and you hear that on that tape of how Peter was not afraid to kind of take charge a little bit in the early days, and it's kind of cool to me to hear that, like him sharing that spotlight with the guys in the early days. Absolutely.
And then let's just face facts. It was the mid '70s, when Beth came out and having that such a huge successful single, he was really the highlight of the band at that point, because no other member had a hit like that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even to this day, you could still hear this on maybe soft rock radio if you listen to regular radio. But it's a song that has stood the test of time, and people debate how much of it he really wrote. Blah 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 blah. You know, to me, it's still, the song wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Peter Criss.
Right.
Whether he even put 10% into it, and I don't know what the percentage is. I'm not saying that's what it is.
Right.
Kiss would have never had that song if it wasn't for Peter Criss. You know what I mean?
No, that's a great point. Right. Who cares what percentage he wrote? That song would not exist in Kiss without him. Great point.
Right.
Great point.
Yeah, because it kind of pisses me off when I hear things like, well, Bob Ezrin really the one who came up with Bob Ezrin wouldn't have came up with anything if it wasn't for Peter bringing it to the table, however he did, saying like, hey, I got this song that I used to play with my old band, whatever the hell, I had this demo.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And the bottom line is, no matter what you bring to the table, you got to deliver the goods. And the vocal performance on that song, still to this day, it brings the hairs up on my arm. You know, it's just one of those things where I'll never ever get tired of hearing that song. You know.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the vocal thing, because to me that's one people talk about his drumming style, understandably so. But the vocals, to me, I loved his voice. You know, he had that raspy voice, a little bit of Rod Stewart, you know, to it. But it was really, to me, a great raspy rock voice if he was doing Black Diamond or Getaway or Mainline, like Baby Driver. I love his voice in those songs.
Hooligan,
can't forget Hooligan, right? Dirty Livin', right? There's a number of them. But, you know, I love his vocals. I wish he actually sang more songs while he was in Kiss.
And for those people who don't know the story about Hard Luck Woman, which is one of my favorite Kiss songs of all time, is as the story goes, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that, you know, Paul wrote this song and Peter heard it, and Paul had wrote it, I think, with Rod Stewart in mind, and Peter was like, ding, no Rod Stewart, it's going to be my song. And literally he did go that, ding.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what he said, ding.
And
did he do that also? Ding. With the arm?
Yeah. No, we trademarked that.
Okay, so
but again, a tremendous vocal on that song, and it's just amazing to me. The Kiss is somewhat like the Beatles, and I don't mean they're like the Beatles. So people start getting crazy. You know, they had from like 74 to 79, 80-ish with Peter, right? Where Beatles were like 63 to like 70, you know what I mean? It's almost like the same amount of time
I've
that
never thought about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. In some ways, it feels like it was a lot longer, you know, especially because Kiss was pumping out so much product at the time. You know, you think, how many records could they put out? Well, you probably know the number at the back of your hand between live album, double platinum, solo albums.
I think it's like 14, but I could be wrong with that.
Yeah, it's crazy if you think about it, you know?
Oh, it is. It's ridiculous.
And I think that's my point, being is that there's so much of our childhood in that 6 years, and you know, being very young and impressionable. I remember that you and I were in a band, that other band as teenagers, where we literally were planning to do something outside. No instruments, nobody could play. Who was going to use the wiffle ball bat?
I was just going to say, I had the wiffle ball bat. Come on.
Yeah, right. Well, if you want to call that an instrument. Doesn't
everybody play the wiffle ball bat? Come on. I play guitar, I play bass. I play the wiffle ball bat.
Right. So how we were going to pull this off, but it was definitely, I think I remember there's two other people involved in that, but I don't remember who you were going to be at the time, but because we both love Peter Criss, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But point being is that, you know, how much that band influenced us at such a young age. You know, our superheroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
People, Superman and, you know, Batman, and this one, it was Peter Criss, Ace Frehley, you know, Paul Stanley.
Oh, absolutely. You know, even just thinking back to that time period, the posters they put out, there was one for each member, right? And you wanted to have each one of the four, right? So it's kind of funny sometimes in today's day and age, people, I think, don't give Peter the credit that maybe he deserves from that time period. But in the 70s, I mean, here we're just two examples that Peter Criss was our guy, and there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of more people like us out there that gravitated to Peter. It really was that type of band, almost like you said before, like the Beatles in that regard also, where there was four separate entities. And that we know that that's what Kiss was looking for, like a Beatles, only a hard rock version, you know, with makeup and all that. But, you know, to me, Peter doesn't get the credit that he deserves from that time period of what he meant to the band during the golden days, really.
Well, and I was happy to see that Paul wished him a 75th birthday. I think, what we've had to suffer from over however many years, 20 plus years, is the constant back and forth bashing of who's saying this about this one. And it's just, and us as Kiss fans, I think the majority would say, we don't want to hear the nonsense, especially now. These guys are older, you want to ride out on a high note, it's just like, we all know the stories of who did what, who smoked it, who did that, whatever, drank. Okay, right. Enough. I want to have fond memories of these guys. I want to have that feel good memory of when I put that record on, like I remember at the first time, or putting the makeup on, or my mom, we put the makeup on, being super excited. Like, I could not wait to step out that front door because I thought I was going to be a kid. Like, everyone else had the plastic masks, and I was like, no. I had the makeup on,
Right. Absolutely. No, I'm glad you brought up that Paul Stanley tweeted about his birthday today, right? Because I saw that and I thought that was cool. And I know you were busy all afternoon. We're recording this near the end of the day today. You probably didn't see yet on Peter Criss's website. They have a video. It's like an hour and 10 minutes long, right? So it's a long thing. And there is everybody in this video under the sun. I would say to anybody watching this, stop watching this for a little bit. Go check out Peter Criss's website, petercriss.net. Hour and 10 minutes where, you name it. It is members of the Foo Fighters, Motley Crue. I mean, I can't even begin to start thinking everybody is in. There's got to be at least 50, 60 different celebrities, actors that he's worked with. I mean, literally, you name it. There's everybody in there. I couldn't believe all these different people they got in it. And the video ends with videos from Gene, Paul, and Ace. And I
actually just got chills.
I was going to say, as I'm saying it, I got chills because I didn't know that the three of them were in there. I kept wishing.
Well, thanks for the spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Well, you know what? You got to sit through an hour and 10 minutes, and some people may not, right? So I did. I sat through the whole thing, and every celebrity that came up, I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice if Paul and Gene especially did this also. And I don't expect it. I'm like, yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, maybe Ace will show up. And then the first one was Gene, and I'm like, holy crap. Wow, Gene actually did something. Paul might be mad at him. And then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, there's Paul. I'm like, oh, and I felt like a little kid. I'm like, this is great. This is great. Even though it's, they're not in the room together. This is what we want. Exactly.
This is what we want.
Exactly.
So who put this together? Do you have an idea? That's a lot. An hour and 10 minutes of people just saying, wishing him a happy birthday.
It's people wishing him happy birthday. It's people talking about him. There's live clips, put in between as well. I know his wife was the one that posted it on his site and said, something like, hey, we made you this video. Who put it together? I'm not positive, right? So I don't want to say, but his wife was the one that posted on the website, and the Kiss part, like I said, is at the end, last 2 minutes or whatever. But I watched the whole thing because it was kind of cool to see, modern day drummers paying tribute. They had the guys from Rush in there. I mean, I'm telling you, I wish I could think of everybody off the top of my head. There really was everybody, I felt like, in this video. Wow. I'm like, holy crap, and it was kind of cool to hear, whether it was the guys from Rush, whether it was Tommy Lee, whoever it was, just kind of talking about the impact that Peter Criss had on their life, which I thought was really freaking cool to watch that.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was touched tremendously by it. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the memories, the best memory I have, well, I have a couple, but probably the best memory I have, Peter Criss, you were actually there when we were going to the signing. I think it was maybe 2014, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say 13, so it was right around that time, 2013, 14, right around there.
And I had never met him before, and I was at one of those Comic-Cons or one of those things, I think. Not Comic-Con. I
think it was a convention in Philadelphia or in the Pennsylvania area called All Things That Rock, if I remember right.
Yeah. I was really close to Comic-Con.
Yeah, you were close.
Yeah.
They sold comics there, so I'll give you that.
Right. And I remember, I think I brought some drum heads, and then we found out, Peter was going to do his own custom thing, whatever. And then luckily there was records that they were selling there, and I went to find a solo album, and I found, his solo album, and I remember being online with you, and I think you were saying, well, what are you gonna say to him? Like, this is your guy. I mean, right. And I'm thinking, like, I gotta be really creative here. I gotta really, because I want to really engage him. Because anybody could just say, man, you're my idol. Right. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing that anybody says.
Sure.
But I want to try to have
you wanted to stand out a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, of course, I said that to him. And I was like,
of course.
and he was so there. But then I grabbed his ear about some drum stuff,
mm-hmm.
and I said to him, I said, I just want to ask you a question. Like, when you came up with that shuffle groove for Detroit Rock City, like, what made you come up?
Mm-hmm.
And he went into the whole thing of how Bob really pushed him, and I said, yeah, there's that drum fill in Shock Me, like coming
mm-hmm.
out of the first chorus,
mm-hmm.
and he's going like this to his wife. Do you hear the questions he's asking me? Like he was, he's like,
I remember that.
And she was like, and now it's like, and I'm feeling like time is standing still,
mm-hmm.
and it's great. Mm-hmm. And he's not saying, okay, next,
No, he spent a while with you.
Yeah, as fact, his wife was saying, you got some people online. He's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, not being rude, but he was so. And then he gave me a hug at the end. Like, again, it's like I felt like Marsha Brady. I will never wash this back again. It's like,
and you haven't, right, since 2013.
No. Boy, am I right? Yeah. But that and maybe you want to share. I'll let you take the stage for the other memory, which I'm sure you know what the other one's going to be.
Well, yeah. So and I have, before we even talk about that, I also have a memory probably like 2 years before that, right? So before I even get into my memory,
I remember this.
What I'm going to say is that to me it's really cool to see Peter come do a complete 180, right? So we've all read the stories in the 70s that he was cranky, complained, difficult to get along with, right?
Right.
And I've seen videos of him in the studio that, he was in the early 90s, pretty damn cranky, right?
Yeah.
When we met him, and I met him as well a few years beforehand, I've met him, I think, 5 times now. You cannot meet a nicer guy. It's just friggin' amazing. And every time I've met him, it's been like you said, he takes time, he stands, he talks. It doesn't matter if there's 100 people online. And my point here is that I think it was the first time I met him. Me and my daughter went to New Jersey to a convention, and we were online to meet him, and it was 7:00, it was 8:00, it was 9:00, it was 10:00 at night, right? And literally, and it wasn't like there was 10,000 people online. There was probably a couple of hundred, but he was taking 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes with every single person. His wife, I love to tell this story. His wife comes out at like 8:00, apologizes to everybody on the line. I'm really sorry it's taken a long time, but trust me, Peter really wants to get to know you guys, wants to talk with you guys. And we were all like, hey, this is cool. We're all hanging out BS and online anyway. He sees my daughter, who was like 12 at the time. And she goes over to my daughter. I'm so sorry. You must be hungry. Can I get you a sandwich? I'll make you a sandwich. And I'm like, Peter Criss's wife is offering to make my daughter a sandwich right now. Right. We said no, but we still it was so genuine. Like I think let me not say I think I know if my daughter would have said, "Oh yeah, I'm hungry," she would have been back out 5 minutes with a sandwich. No doubt in my mind about it. And when we got in there, because my daughter was young and was a VIP experience, I did not pay for her. Right. So they told her just, well, you could come in the room, just, sit over to the side while your dad's talking. And at the time, my daughter was starting to get into School of Rock. And he's like, oh, really? Come over here. What's your name? I'm going to sign a picture for you. You're into rock music? I'm going to sign a picture for free for you because you deserve that. And I remember that. I'm like, that's pretty damn cool that he did that. I didn't pay for her to be in the experience. I certainly didn't pay for that autograph, but he heard she was into music and she was a kid. And he's like, no, I want to say hello to this kid and I want to, sign a picture for her. And that to me is who Peter Criss has become in his older age. And, I think that's great to see, so,
absolutely.
But you were talking about, what is it? 2017, right? When we did the bus tour in Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, why don't you, I know this ranks in one of your top 5 days, certainly.
Well, let me just set the stage a little bit. We're on one of those double-decker buses. It's really hot that day, if you remember. Peter was originally on top.
Yes.
And Peter's like, you talk about cranky. But Peter's like total New Yorker. It's fucking hot. Fucking hot. It's fucking hot up here. And I'm just laughing because here's like your idol, like cursing and cussing, like. And he finally says he's smart. He goes, I got to go down into the air conditioning, and it was hot.
Yes.
And you're on one of those double-decker buses where you're basically at 5 feet from the sun.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So just hearing Peter like just talk candidly about whatever, and if you remember that day. Unfortunately, there were some people because the promoter didn't book whatever, and Peter was really upset.
Yes.
He was pissed off because there was literally people who couldn't get on the bus, and he was like, "I'm never gonna, hire this guy. Never working with this effing guy again. This guy, I so bad for these people." He was really like distraught. That was number one. And then number two was one of the stops, because part of the New York City tour was like, oh yeah, this is the loft where Kiss used to rehearse. Okay, now we're gonna go to the corner where they took the picture for Dress to Kill. Okay, now we're gonna go to Electric Ladyland Studios. And one thing that the organizer did at the time was go into Electric Ladyland, because we were just supposed to pass by and just see if we could go in, and they managed to let us get in. Like when we went. Now for me again, loving studio recording and doing all my own stuff. I know about Electric Ladyland and everyone who played there. Jimi Hendrix's studio. Walking down there, that surreal feeling of knowing and hearing all the songs that I know.
I still remember walking down that staircase. I think even you took like a video of us walking down the staircase, right? I
remember like when we went down there, Peter was like, wow. And he got all choked up with emotion. Like he hadn't been down there since maybe I think he said maybe when they were doing Love Gun. I think it might have been.
Maybe, yeah, it could be. I don't remember.
And he got all choked up and emotional, and it like all came, I think he said at the time, came full circle. Like this is where, we built, however many records. I think Dress to Kill was recorded there. Rock and Roll Over, was that part of it?
No, Rock and Roll Over was in Jersey somewhere, in a theater there. Yeah, I thought it was in an empty theater in Jersey, if I remember right.
But sometimes what they would do is they would go to that studio to mix,
Could
sometimes.
be, yeah. So I'm usually good with the songwriting and things like that. With the studios, off the top of my head, not good.
I feel like there was at least 3 albums linked to.
I think there was,
yeah. But so that was awesome, just being in that room. And then we leave there and we make maybe another couple spots, and then the organizer had the idea we'd return to Madison Square Garden, or that would be the final stop, and we all gathered. And not even like you and I were shoving people out of the freaking way.
No.
Like we just happened to be next to Peter, and we're trying like just
well, let me pause you.
Okay,
the whole group was standing there, and Peter was like over on the side, and they told Peter, we'll go into the group, and we were just coincidentally like somewhere in the middle of the group, and he walks over and he's walking towards the two of us, and I think the both of us like he might be
right,
and he goes and splits the two of us, right? You were on one side, I was on the other, and we were like, holy crap, we couldn't have gotten it. So I'm on his left, you're on his right, and we're getting ready to sing Beth in front of Madison Square Garden. It's like, holy friggin' crap, I can't believe this right now.
Yeah, it's definitely like I think we were both like arm in arm with him, and he was just, he's kind of like this and listening. And he wasn't, I don't think he was really singing. He was just taking it all in. I think we were only going to do one verse, and then we started to do a second verse. And I'm just here's my childhood friend, all these memories I shared as a Kiss fan with our childhood hero, minus the Fonz for me. He was, although you got to meet Henry Winkler.
I did get to meet him. Sorry.
And we're just like, you couldn't have planned this any better. It's not like you said, we weren't pushing anyone out of the way. Like, we got to be next to,
No.
And we were like, the 2 pieces of bread, and Peter Criss was inside the sandwich. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that was just an incredible, I was like, nothing's ever going to top this. To which you could go to the next story, because I know you're marinating.
So, as people who watch the show know, I love to give you a hard time about this, right? And we did an episode probably almost a year ago of our top 10 concerts. We had your brother join us for that. And one of my top 10 concerts of my life is a concert that you chose to skip out on because you thought the ticket price was $50 more than it should be. So I'd love to give you a hard time about that.
And also, not to my defense, but just my defense at the time, what I was thinking was, I just had the greatest experience. Right. I was just next to Peter Criss. How could I even top that? All right, it's the last show.
Yes, I'd love to give you a hard time about the $50, but you did say that.
Well, but it's still it's no excuse in my opinion. I mean, I regret that so much. I wish I was there, and I just hope one day, like maybe he'll just do maybe one more show.
Right. Yeah. And I'll just say, being at that show that night, I was at the New York City show. As of this point, it's his final live performance ever, and I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't seen Peter play drums since 2000, right? So it's been 17 years at that point. I knew he'd be up front singing some songs. He'd be behind the kit. and just the electric in the room that night. He performed great, right? He was spot on. The band was great. I know he had the guys from Sisters Doll with him, was his support. And then there's a couple of other guys playing some wind instruments and whatever. It was just, it blew everybody in that room away. And I know I'll never forget this. You know, I'm right in front looking at the stage, and Peter actually enters as they start playing I Can't Stop the Rain from a doorway on the right-hand side, right? And he's walking to the stage singing the opening verse of the song. And he's just overcome with emotion so badly that to say he butchered it is an understatement. I was just oh no, this is one of my all-time favorite Peter Criss songs. What are you doing? But he was just so, he has said afterwards, overcome with emotion that he just totally lost his spot in the song. But if you watch the next like 11, 12 songs after that, he was spot on with his drumming, spot on with his singing. It was a great set list. It covered, you know, a lot of Kiss stuff. It covered a couple of songs from his 78 solo album. It even had a song from Out of Control in 1980, which I happen to like that album quite a bit. So he did a song from that. And then he closed with Sing, Sing, Sing from his Drum Idol, right? So it was like a perfect way. It was really a perfect Peter Criss show. I put it in one of my top 10 concerts of all time. And had you asked me before that night if this would even hit my top 30, I would have said, nah, it'll be cool. You know, it's Peter Criss, it's my childhood idol, but you know, nah, it'll just be cool to go to. But it blew me away. It was an incredible show. I regret that you weren't there to share it with me, but I also like the fun-natured ribbon I can give you about it.
And thankfully, with, you know, technology, I've been able to see some clips from that night, you know, so it's nice to at least see what went on, even though like the vibe in that room must have been incredible. So
it was. I just remember after every song, everybody chanting Peter, Peter, like after every song, and you could just see, because I was close to the stage, you could see the feeling in his face, like, holy crap, wow, this is cool. Yeah.
Well, look, a couple of months ago, maybe it's 3 months ago at this point, I don't even remember, when he released the video of him in his house singing "Don't Let Me Down." You could see the pure joy at the end.
Yes.
There was no crowd, there was no audience, but I think he just realized, like, again, like, you know what, this is a great thing, you know. I happen to love that song. I know we have a little difference of opinion on that particular tune for the record, but no, I love seeing that. And he just released something, or Richie Scarlett just put something out.
Yep. Richie Scarlett just put out a new song with the Emperor and the Catman, or the Catman and the Emperor. I forget which way it goes. And Peter Criss is playing drums on it. It's the first recording with Peter Criss on drums in probably a couple of decades, I think. Right? I think 2003 was the last album that had Peter Criss playing drums on it. So, you know, to me, that's cool. I hope Peter does more of that. I know over the last decade, he recorded a rock album that hasn't seen the light of day. He did that with John 5. You know, I'm hoping he puts this stuff out. I don't expect every song to be Black Diamond or Hooligan or Baby Driver, right? But, you know, we're all not getting any younger, right? So I hope it's not one day too late, and I hope we do get this product from Peter. So I was excited when I heard he was doing a song with Richie Scarlett. I hope that opens the door to other things in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, maybe we're starting to see something here. You know, maybe we're starting to see a trend, and maybe he's taking, you know, seeing what Kiss is doing or what they've been doing, you know, before this whole pandemic thing. But, you know, they want to go out on a high note, and maybe he's thinking, you know what? You know, I mean, with this video or this release with Richie Scarlett, with doing the "Don't Let Me Down" thing, maybe he's like, all right, let me test the waters here. You know what I mean? Now this whole video, I mean, 75 years. I mean, that's, you know, milestone birthday too, but that's also pretty significant. Maybe he's gonna say, wow, an hour and 10 minutes of people, like, I'm sure he realized what kind of influence he has. You know, everyone always talks, you always hear the stories about guitar players and Ace Frehley.
Right.
You hear more of that. I started playing the guitar because of Ace Frehley, because the guitar is a more popular instrument.
Right.
Ace Frehley's more popular Kiss member. But, I mean, I can't imagine. Well, I can now. You're telling me there's all this footage. I can't. Literally after this podcast, I'm going to go watch it because I want to see this because it's awesome.
As you're talking about it, like, I'm trying to remember all the people in it, and what I thought was cool is that it wasn't only drummers. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I remember Sammy Hagar being in it, and that's not somebody you would expect to see giving a tribute to Peter Criss at 75 years old, you know. But there's Sammy Hagar, non-drummer, right, out there acknowledging Peter, and that just, you know, as I watch that just tells me the scope and the impact that this man has had, you know, and You know, it's funny because today would have been his birthday. I was thinking back to you and I were at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame introduction in Barclays Center. What was that? 4 or 5 years ago at this point, I guess, right?
I think that was also 2014.
I think
2014, 15.
Yeah, I think so. So, you know, and I remember Peter that night, and there's some of that ill will about the whole makeup thing. And I remember Peter saying one thing, but it's kind of stuck with me because it really is like the way I feel about him. He's like, you know, in and out of makeup, I'll always be the Catman. And he made that comment that night. And I'm like, you know what? That's true. Maybe more than anybody, right? People used to, like, even in the 90s in his band members used to call him, hey, Cat, you know, like that was his nickname, Cat, you know. You never see people walking around saying to Gene, hey, Demon, or Paul, hey, Starchild, you know. But for whatever reason, Peter just seems to have embraced that character maybe more than any of them. And, you know, I find myself like kind of thinking about that today. Yes, Eric Singer's there wearing the makeup, and you and I both support the current lineup, right? But there's something about Peter Criss that he'll always be the Catman to me. And that's no disrespect to Eric Singer. He'll always be the Catman to me.
I don't ever look at Eric or Tommy as the Spaceman and the Catman. I see it's Eric Singer, Tommy Thayer.
Yeah, me too.
I never ever think of that. I know Kiss is still trying to sell that product, you know, merchandise. It's not once I ever think of them that way at all, you know. But you know, but again, for a younger generation who don't know Peter Criss, these are their Catman and Spaceman, you know. But you know, I think for the most part, if you're like, say, if you were a Kiss fan in the 70s and you have kids and you're telling them about that, I don't think you're going to start when like Tommy Thayer was in the band or when Eric. I think you're going to go back to, you know, the beginning for the most part. I mean, you're always going to have a small percentage of everything, but yeah.
And look, at the end of the day, you know, we were saying this about Beth and Peter bringing Beth into the band. At the end of the day, Peter created that makeup, and it's iconic. You know, it's one of the 4 iconic makeup symbols of the band. And yes, he sold the rights to it in the late 80s or whatever, and maybe he shouldn't have and all that. That's a whole different topic. I don't even want to get into that, right? But he was the creator, right? And whether it's Eric Singer or somebody else who would have been wearing it, it's still Peter Criss's creation. And, you know, I never forget that. It doesn't matter who's wearing it.
It's a creation and a persona.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It was, you know, again, they all carried themselves in a different way, you know. And yeah, I just, you know, it's just hard, you know, thinking about that number, you know. I just can't believe it, you know. Some ways you always see them as when they were 20 and 30-year-olds, you know what I mean, and we were kids, you know.
Yep.
But
and you know, I just want to acknowledge one other thing with Peter Criss before we wrap this up. We all know he went through breast cancer, male breast cancer, a couple of years. I guess at this point it's more than a couple of years ago. It's over a decade ago, right? And he's waved the flag for that and been very out there and vocal about that. And I give him a lot of credit because male breast cancer, some people may frown upon that and say, you know, men don't get breast cancer. Well, yeah, Peter has shown us they do, right? And he's really kind of taken that for the last 10, 15 years. And him and his wife are both cancer survivors, right? But I think that's even added extra importance to his life that, you know, Kiss is one thing, but he's really getting a message out there that, quite frankly, I didn't realize men could get breast cancer until Peter Criss told me that. So now that's something I'm aware of.
And not only that, I think it might not be coincidence that the way he's changed with the fans, whatever.
Agreed.
You know, when you feel like you're getting a new lease on life and you start saying, listen, I'm going to take advantage of every, you know, second I can and appreciate those, you know. I mean, even when we went to the Vault event with Gene, remember he did it like a drive-by. That was super cool, you know. Gene's already doing his thing, and all of a sudden we hear like this cheering or something. We see Peter coming down the steps, and we're like, you and I like 2 rows back. And just like, oh,
absolutely.
So awesome. You know, I think we were hoping that he would sing or do something. I think Gene was trying to get him to do something, but he was literally, I'm going to be here for 10, 15 minutes. I'm saying hello.
Right.
Gene gave him a vault, you know, which was cool, and spoke a little bit. And those are the memories we like to see as Kiss fans now is, you know, in some way, shape, or form, I would love to see all 4 original members together on a stage or whatever, or, you know, maybe when it's all said and done, they all do a press conference and they all get together and have some last final words. And when they all go off to do the rest of the stuff they're going to do for the rest of their life. But, no bad blood, no bullshit, no more books, no more crap. You know what I mean? I just want them to live in a sea of positivity at this point.
Absolutely. No, and I'm glad you brought up that vault experience, right? Because a couple of things come to mind. First off, because I was the one that posted the video of the two of them, Peter, Criss, being at the vault experience for a few minutes with Gene, and a lot of people comment, I can't believe Peter only stayed a couple of minutes. Well, first things first, Peter said beforehand that he was only staying a couple of minutes that day. He wanted to come, say hello to Gene. He did. He hung out with Gene for like 10 minutes, one-on-one. But that was crystal clear that Peter was only spending a couple of minutes. So we knew, we were hoping for more. Of course, we're always going to hope for more. But we knew he was not going to hang out for long. And I don't know if I've ever spoke about this on the show. About 3 or 4 weeks before that, I met Peter at another convention somewhere. And there was rumors that Gene had invited him. And there was, at that time, Peter had not accepted. So I went over to Peter when I met him and I said, hey, Pete, what do you think? Are you going to go to the vault experience? He's like, I don't know. The only time that Gene calls me is if he wants something. I'm sure I'll just get roped in. He's like, I love the guy. He's like, but I just don't know that I want to do that to myself. I left that meet and greet saying, all right, Peter Criss is not going to the vault, and it was like 10 days after that, they announced Peter Criss is going to the vault and he's going to only come by for like a couple of minutes and say hello. And to me, I loved that. It was in some ways, I wish he performed, but it was cool just seeing the two of them together. And you could see, even through thick and thin, the two of them, Gene and Peter, there's a connection there between them, right? And they were joking about like eating Twinkies and whatever. You could see there's a connection between them that goes back a long way. Probably more Gene and Peter than maybe even Paul and Peter. But I just felt that connection between the two of them that day. And I felt it was very genuine.
Because a lot of this shit has been exterior, but I'm sure deep, rooted within their hearts is a love that'll always be there. Knowing like, think of all the little moments that became big moments in the band in the loft, rehearsing for the first time, trying to get those songs together, to recording their first record, to struggling and, Bill Coyne's charging stuff on his American Express card and are we going to make it? And they're touring like, no other band. And, and then that moment where you realize that you've made it on the big stage and your first gold record. I mean, there's so much stuff and so much time that was spent together. You never erase that time. And, and you've read the books of the pain, this one was this. But the bottom line is, if it wasn't for the four of them, those four guys, you could arguably say, because we know those are the four guys, it may not have happened that way.
Agreed.
For whatever reason, you go in a different path. Influences on whoever, what I mean, that's in their circle, You could even say Lydia Criss was an influence on them somehow.
Absolutely.
By taking photographs or maybe saying them, why don't you guys do this? This idea of something or picture something. You just never, as you always say,
you never know.
Obviously they were totally determined and they had a mission, and they had said from the onset, we knew what we wanted to do, and that we were going to be this huge band or whatever the case may be. But you can never take away his 1/4 of that band. And I think that's why now you get Paul getting given a message, you get Gene and Ace, because I think, like I said, as people get older, like, you know what, this is our guy, this is our original guy, and he'll always be our guy. Always.
You can't change that. So I'll put you on the spot. If you were going to go with a deep Peter Criss cut for today, right, finish this conversation, I know you just said you're going to watch the 1-hour video, but you go with a deep Peter Criss cut, what do you put on?
A deep Peter Criss cut?
Yeah, I don't want you to choose like Black Diamond or even Dirty Livin'. Go with a deep cut.
I mean, it's likely to come off of his solo album. That's the first thing I think about. I don't know. I just have so many good memories of that record, of that Christmas of '78. I don't know, something about that first start of that record. I could pick any one of the records and the songs. I don't know. That's you put me on the spot.
Yeah, well, I did it purposely. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you.
I said "Don't Let Me Down" as one of my favorite songs. But then again, if I think of like "Baby Driver," like you said, that's a deep cut, and it's a song that I really for many years didn't acknowledge, only till in the last however many years when he started really going back at the deep cuts. So "Baby Driver," is a great song.
And that's the one I was going to say for me. I'm surprised more Kiss fans don't hold that song, it seems like, in higher regard than they do. I think the song's great.
Yeah.
I love his vocal. It's a good rock song. I love the song. So to me, that, or, you know what, I also want to say, I love Peter Criss's version of Vinnie Vincent's song, Tears. I love Peter's version of it. But probably it's my favorite version of all the different versions out there. And there's a lot of them out there. I just think Peter did an amazing job of that song on Let Me Rock You.
Yeah. And Dirty Livin'. I love that song. Just mostly for the bass in that record. I forget who played bass on that. I think we've looked it up. But
I don't
but I love that tune, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I was somewhere once and that song was playing and I'm like, because it totally sounds like you talk about a disco tune. I mean, it was actually a 12-inch single, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I'm like, this sounds so familiar. Like, immediately didn't connect because I was like, who's this disco record? And I'm like, wait, that's Peter? Oh, wait, that is Kiss. Because it was like the 12-inch version, which was slightly different. It was like a different mix. So it might have just been the drum group and the boom, you know, the bass. And I'm like, this is great. What was this? And I realized it was freaking Kiss. But, yeah. Well, so Baby Driver's your selection.
I think Baby Driver's my selection. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great song.
Yeah. So. Well, it's one of those things you go back and you wish that there were more songs in the Kiss catalog that he would have had more time, because it was, like I said, it was only like a short 6-year period.
Yep. No, I do. I wish he had more songs on the albums that he was singing. Because like we started off saying, whether it's Mainline, Getaway, Strange Ways, right? We never even mentioned that before.
Oh yeah.
Black Diamond, right? I mean, every song that he sung was a winner to me. I just loved. I loved his style. I love his singing. So I wish there was a couple more of them. I really do.
I agree.
So as we wrap this up, you're going to go put on the cat makeup again, like you did in that picture?
I don't know. Do I have any of that makeup still available from 1978? It might have dried up by now.
You dried up, all right.
Yeah, I could do wonders with a chapstick, but I think that's clear. I don't.
Maybe you put on your leather jacket. You could dress as the Fonz then.
Yeah, yeah. Either way is a frightening sight, but you could go either way. But
maybe the leather jacket with the makeup, you do the Fonz and Peter Criss mixed together.
I may have had did I have a leather jacket on this picture? I did. Doesn't matter. Look at that. There it is. The leather jacket. And I wanted that jacket. The funny thing is I wanted that jacket because of the Fonz.
That is hilarious. I didn't even know that when I was making the joke. Yeah,
that's great.
Now, if you were doing the thumbs up, then that would have been that's it.
Well, I do have pictures somewhere of me with the Fonz shirt. It says, "Hey!" across. So.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, anything else, Peter Criss, that we should bring up before we wrap this up?
Well, as we always say, we love to celebrate, even in life, because he is still alive. Thank God. Go and listen to your Peter Criss records, his solo stuff without Kiss, his solo record with Kiss, the Kiss records that have him on it. Celebrate the man. We always we're not preachy, but we always say, a lot of times we'll say at the end of our podcast, go back, listen to the records,
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Just enjoy his legacy will live on forever.
Easy. Agreed. And but you said it perfect. I don't think there's anything else I can say. Well, no, you said it perfect. Get it?
Oh, perfect.
Get it? Yeah. All right, that was really bad. I think that's a cue to. I think we should wrap this up.
Edit this out.
That's right. So, all right. That'll be a wrap for this episode. Buddy, thanks for joining me. I'm hoping we could do one more of these maybe before the year is over. We'll keep that topic kind of under wraps right now. But if we don't speak to everybody, enjoy your holidays. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully we do see you one more time before this year is out.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy. Take it easy.
Take care.
All righty. Later. Alrighty. There you have it. We hope you enjoyed that conversation celebrating the great Peter Criss. As I said at the front, Peter's meant a lot to us over the years, and I know he's meant a lot to Kiss fans as well. So we had a lot of fun having this conversation celebrating the great Catman, Peter Criss. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.